each home that we do, specifically front yard jobs, kind of turns into a showroom. And that's a whole other story. But to answer your question on, the digital kind of IP, yeah, I was able to take ownership of that, but I've had a lot of trouble with Google as well as Yelp, and that's how I came in contact with StubGroup. I just see so much return from actually investing the time and just sitting down with them, because 9 out of 10 of our customers are willing to leave a review.
Hey, this is John back again with another episode of the Clicks to Customers podcast. I am John, the CEO of StubGroup and the host of this podcast, and I am joined today by Tom Roche, who is the owner of Total Turf, and it's in a lot of other things in his professional experience, which we'll dig into here as well. So Tom, thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So as I kind of dug into your bio and everything that you've done, Tom, I decided I'm not going to try and summarize it. I'm going to let you kind of walk through, because you've done a lot of things, a lot of really cool things. So who is Tom Roche? What's been your professional background? Kind of what's gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah, sure thing. Well, I'll focus on the last 10 years, so I don't bore you guys. But Tom Roche, SF, Bay Area based, entrepreneur and consultant. Prior to COVID, I was running an experiential marketing agency and doing large-scale activations for brands like Red Bull, SoFi, and Gap. Obviously, events were shattered during COVID, and so I did a bit of a pivot, and I started as the first marketing hire at a startup called Abodu that specialized in accessory dwelling units. I was there for about 3.5 years, scaled to multiple regions. We put hundreds of units on the ground. And during that time, I got into real estate myself, started purchasing real estate, renovating, and really developed a passion for that. And as my journey at Abodu finished, I started looking into the home service space as a whole, and potentially purchasing and acquiring one that was pre-existing, as I'm sure you guys are aware, this silver tsunami is going on, where a lot of these boomers are retiring. So with that, I've been running Total Turf for almost about a year now, and that was a company that I bought. It was previously Northern California Construction LLC, which is a little bit longer, and the owner is great. He had been running it for a little under 10 years with 1 or 2 crews, and as I really dove into that business, really started to understand that artificial turf, pavers, and concrete were at its core. So went through a rebranding exercise, and now we're here today.
I will say Total Turf definitely rolls off the tongue a little bit better than Northern California Construction. So I see the branding already at play there.
Absolutely.
What prompted you to want to go the acquisition route versus starting something from the ground up yourself?
Yeah, over my career, it's nearly 20 years. I've started multiple businesses, and I think getting off the ground and really finding product market fit and your ideal customer profile is difficult, right? And so I figured, why not give it a shot and see if I can put a deal together where there was a heavy seller finance component involved, and learn from that owner, which I have. And he stayed on for about 3 months to kind of mentor, and I still keep in touch with him. But to really answer your question, yeah, I think I wanted to start on second base.
That totally makes sense. I've got a ton of questions here. Let's dig in. So
yeah,
starting from the basics, like actually looking for this deal, what are some of the features about this particular company that made you want to go with it versus, I'm going to guess, you looked at other opportunities that you passed on?
Absolutely. So I really wanted to, as far as my deal box was concerned, I wanted to focus on home services. So construction, renovation, everything from HVAC to window cleaning, pools to just general construction. And so when I started looking at my search, I was kind of narrowing it down to there. I wanted to make sure that it was located in California, where I'm based, because I knew I'd have somewhat involvement in it. And ideally, I wanted something that was very straightforward and repeatable. And so that's what really drew me to this company. Was they were doing a couple things and they were doing them really, really well. And they had processes in place and kind of their secret sauce already carved out, and their point of differentiation, right? And so when you look at the turf market as a whole, it's kind of the wild, wild west, where a lot of people will call and it's just everyone's kind of trying to figure out who I can go with for the most affordable price per square foot. And so a lot of what I do on the back end, not to get in a whole tangent here, is educate the customers as far as what makes us different. So yeah, to really answer your question, wanted it to be home service focused, close to me, and ideally something that was already potentially ready to scale.
It's particularly interesting to me that you are based in California. So I follow lots of different local services accounts on X, and I see some, saying, "Oh, I would never go to California in a million years." I see other people based there saying, "Hey, what are you guys talking about? This is great." Like, what has your experience been in California with the legal realities, the economic realities there, and yeah, I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, shout out to any entrepreneur in California. With the labor laws, the tenant laws, it is really tough. It's very difficult to run a small business and do so in a profitable manner, while also ensuring that you're protected legally against lawsuits and whatnot. So, yeah, very, very difficult, but I'm born and raised here. I love the Golden State. My wife and I, we don't foresee ourselves moving anytime soon. Our entire families are here, all four sides. So, we love it. We have a beautiful life, and so you got to work around those regulatory kind of constraints, if you will.
Totally. And people living in California need turf, so somebody's got to be there to provide and capture that market share. For the people who are watching this, let's say somebody's watching this, they're thinking about buying a business right now. How important do you think it is that geographic proximity of the business being close to you versus, oh, hey, it's 2 states away, but it looks really cool?
Yeah. Well, I would first say, what's the size of that business, and do they have a management layer in place where you as the new owner do not have to be involved? I think the largest learning that I really was able to find out during my search is that for a lot of these small mom and pop businesses that are doing less than a couple of million, it is heavily ran by the owner, so it's owner operated. They'll say it's absentee because maybe they're not swinging hammers, but they're still involved, right? They still have a job. And then when you really start to dive into the financials, you start to ask the questions as far as, well, who's doing X, Y, and Z? And about 9 times out of 10, it was the wife, right? Or the husband as, kind of back office administrative support. So looking at not only do I have to potentially replace that owner operator, but also their wife, who usually wasn't even on payroll, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, it was important because that was my deal box, was at under 2 million. And for the most part, those are owner operated businesses. I think in the future, I would love to scale this thing and be less in the trenches. But at the same time, I do think it's important to understand your craft and your service and what it is you're selling.
When you're evaluating those deals, would you go so far as figuring out that kind of owner-operator side of things, and if the wife or the husband's involved, and saying, okay, well, what would I have to pay that person if they were a full-time employee, not the spouse, and factor that into the numbers? Or what did that process look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Backing into that and trying to figure out what seller discretionary earnings really look like, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a lot different. If it's a business and they're netting, let's say 20% at $400,000, how much is the owner making? What's their involvement? and are there any family members that are putting in time, and what would that cost to replace them, which can significantly affect that SDE, right? And so it takes a lot of time, and we can dive into that. And, you know, I had a lot of LOIs out there. And I'll be completely honest, my background isn't in finance or, you know, M&A. And so, you know, not only diving into the numbers, but really understanding who this owner is and what it is they're looking to do in the future, right? Is it they're selling because they're retiring? Do they want legacy? Do they want to continue to keep their employees involved? And so there's a lot of emotion involved in this, if you can imagine. And then also just asking the question, do I want to work with this person, right? Not only to close this deal, but if you are going to be involved and they're going to be somewhat of a consultant or a mentor, do you foresee that relationship working out, you know, which is kind of an unknown.
100%. Speaking of the people and the employee side of things, one of the biggest issues I hear about, you know, during acquisition process of companies is, you know, oh great, all of my people just left because they were here because of the previous owner. They're scared about what's happening, and now I have no employees. How did that look for you? What was that?
Yeah, that is a huge fear, right? Because there's no requirement for them to work for you after that acquisition. And I mean, especially someone like me who came in with somewhat green horns, right? And I can just speak from my experience, but prior to closing on the deal, you know, I not only visited the team on site and saw the caliber of work and their execution, which was super important to me, but also got to know them and figure out, hey, are they interested in working for me in the future? And I was really lucky that his core crew, foreman, associate foreman, etc., made the transition, and they've worked out great, knock on wood. But to your point, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen every time, you know?
It sounds like the previous owner was pretty transparent about telling them ahead of time that you were considering. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think, you know, once we got in a later stage, it was apparent. But with most of these businesses that are for sale, you know, it is somewhat private, and they want to protect their employees and not spook them, you know? And as a new owner coming in, that's the last thing you want to do too, is potentially spook those employees that you want to work for you in the future. So
absolutely. Something else I'm curious about in that transition process is the digital asset side of things. So it's particularly interesting with the name change as well. So things like, you know, online reviews, Google business profiles, websites. How did you approach that side of things, and did you keep those? Did you create new ones for the new brand name?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was a big hurdle early on. You know, there were a lot of setbacks. Even, you know, the first day of me taking over, our shop was broken into, and 2 trucks were stolen, and so we were going through that. And that's a whole other story. But to answer your question on, you know, the digital kind of IP, yeah, I was able to take ownership of that, but I've had a lot of trouble with Google as well as Yelp, and that's how I came in contact with StubGroup. And so I was under the impression that I would be able to transfer or just do a quick name change on said reviews and whatnot, and that worked initially, and then Google flagged it. And so with the rebranding and whatnot, I really had to take 2 steps back to take 1 step forward, and it was a very frustrating process, but it's one that I'm glad that we went through, especially being a year into the business and looking into the future. To your point, rolls off the tongue, easy for people to remember, and is a clear representation of our niche.
Yeah. Google has a way of making it hard for business owners in so many ways. Things that you would think just like common sense. Yeah, I'm just trying to run my business here. No, let me spend countless hours, figuring out this ridiculous situation. So, unfortunately, you are in a large boat when it comes to those types of issues.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk a little more marketing here. So, as you look at how you acquire your customers, your business right now, what are your top channels? What's working well? What's not working well? What does that acquisition process look like for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting having the background in the accessory dwelling unit space as being, director of marketing there and then later head of brand, and going through the same exercise of figuring out who your customer is and where their eyes and ears are. So that's first and foremost. Is I've spent the last year really getting to know who I'm selling to. As far as channels and our marketing mix, we're heavy on print. Specifically, there's a couple magazines that go out to affluent homeowners in the Sacramento region that we service. Those do really well. We spend a lot of time with Google Local Services, and you guys have helped me with that. We've done mailers, but the impression cost is fairly high, and that's something that I learned at Abodu as well, so it wasn't new, but the lead quality is really, really strong, and really high on that as well. And then when we were suspended here from Google Local Services over the course of the past 3 months, I really doubled down on our referral program, which we give $500 cash to any customer that introduces us to a family or friend that we end up closing. And then lawn signs and just general brand awareness in that neighborhood. At Abodu, we would go as far as doing, on-site activations and parties per se when these ADUs were crane lifted into the backyards. And so, unfortunately, installing turf pavers and concrete isn't quite as exciting as that. But I will say, us having our branded trucks, our crews wearing branded shirts, me being on site, having that relationship with that homeowner, it makes it a lot easier for us to sell to their neighbors and friends that are constantly walking by with their dogs or whatnot, and kind of seeing our process firsthand. And that's, I think, the greatest thing about doing something that is public facing like this as a project is that each home that we do, specifically front yard jobs, kind of turns into a showroom, right? And so I've also spent a lot of time where, developing PDF sheets that have all the addresses in said areas, so customers can just go on a quick tour and the product speaks for itself and the outcome speaks for itself before we even show up for an on-site estimate.
I love that. Yeah, it's definitely very different. If you're a CPA doing somebody's taxes, take that the tax return and be like, hey, here's how much I did for Billy over here. But no, it's
Totally.
You're 100% right. It's like, just look at it, sells itself, shows how amazing it looks. I really want to double click on the referral side of things. I think a lot of StubGroup's clients, a lot of people I'm sure listening to this right now, are missing a lot of opportunities when it comes to getting referrals. Mm-hmm. What are some of the very specific tactics that you've found to be successful in generating referrals?
Doing a great job. That's first and foremost. I think as marketers, we're constantly looking for the next channel or trying to tweak creative or just get ahead. And it's like, with a high ticket project like this, our average job is around $20K right now. It's a relationship, and this is a project-based business, so you are in and out, but I like to do my best to create that flywheel where they see us, we land them, we do the work, now there's a lawn sign, now there's a referral program, and we keep in touch with them. And so less of just mass volume and more of building a community, and that's something that I really strove for at Abodu as well. And so I've taken that and done my best to understand that customer, understand who they are, and get close with them. And I think at the end of the day, it really just comes down to trust.
Yeah, there's, like you said, there's only so much that advertising, that the marketing can do before you just get down to the reality of what the actual product is, what the actual quality of service is. And this reminds me, I was talking just a couple hours ago with a e-com brand that reached out to us. They're considering hiring us, and they're spending a lot of money on ads right now. And so we were taking a look at things, and hey, here's how you can do better, etc. But also a big part of it came down to, hey, look, when we search for your brand name online, there is this negative Reddit post, this negative Facebook post, these things that are discouraging people from buying from you. And you can't fix that with any amount of advertising and marketing. Ultimately, you need to have a good product that people actually want and want to refer to people. And then, of course, you can be strategic about collecting positive reviews and managing the digital footprint, things like that. But you got to actually have something good to start with. So I think that's a really important point that a lot of people just kind of miss, unfortunately. I think that the ad just picks up.
Yeah, and I think it's like such low-hanging fruit, right? You have this customer that's on a high after spending tens of thousands of dollars, and most contractors and business owners are just on to the next one, and we're constantly chasing the next deal or estimate or project. And it's like, I just see so much return from actually investing the time and just sitting down with them, because 9 out of 10 of our customers are willing to leave a review. You have that 10% that are kind of secretive, and they don't want all their information out there, which is fine. But taking the time and just spending an hour and hanging out with them. My customers for the most part are senior citizens. They're retired. They have time. And so if they need help leaving that review, there is a little bit of a technological learning curve for them as they go through that, helping them and walking them through the process and making it as easy as possible. And I think that kind of comes hand in hand with, like, as a CEO or as an owner, where is my time best suited, in the sales and marketing kind of atmosphere and ecosystem. And coming from a marketing brand background, that's really what I know. And I've really had to realize that I need to be a better salesperson, and taking those courses and getting that training, because this is project based, and it's customer service based. It's people to people. It's B2C. So just trying to focus as much on where my time is best suited to actually grow the business.
And speaking of your time, I know you also spend some of your time consulting with other business owners, and obviously you're running your own business now. What are some of the top mistakes or missed opportunities that you're seeing with other business owners that you often identify and help fix when you're having those consulting conversations?
Yeah, I think as far as marketing channels goes, obtaining those reviews, right? And whether that's your techs doing it, and so creating a program in-house as easy as a Spiff program, where it's Jason, handyman tech, went out and he got a review. They mentioned Jason, and now he's getting $25. And so I do a lot of that on the back end with our monthly meetings and our all hand meetings, and always trying to get the guys and tip them out, and make them feel as though they're responsible for this, because they are. At the end of the day, I'm not the one installing turf pavers and concrete, they are. So letting them take that ownership and understanding that they are growing this business. So I think really reviews is a big one, and then just job costing. It's so easy to just bid, get the project, try to get it done, and get on to the next one. But I've really tried to do my best, and I could be better at it, don't get me wrong. Retroactively looking at your projects and going, what did we actually make on this, right? Are we at 50% gross profit margin after we pay for all of our materials and our labor? And if not, why? Were we understaffed? Were we overstaffed? Or were we underbidding, right? And labor is really the thing that will kill you in construction. And so a lot of this has been, learnings from mentors of mine and contractors who have just been in the weeds and been in the trenches for decades. And so a lot of it is just passing on what they've taught me.
Yeah. So this sounds like almost doing a post-mortem after a job. Is that like pulling up a spreadsheet and putting the numbers in and just crunching them?
Yeah. I recently brought in a contracted admin, and she's great. Her name is Jamie, so she goes through all of our jobs, and I'm able to have a clear understanding and snapshot and dashboard, and then really keeping your eye on those metrics, right? The price per square foot, the revenue per day, the revenue per head on that job, the revenue per head with what your business is doing as a whole. And that can be tough, between the windshield time, as a lot of contractors call it, just driving from job to job, and doing the estimates and getting the contracts out there and making sure that everyone's signing the home improvement contracts, so you're protected to really get in front of the laptop and spend that laptop time. It can be tough, and I mean, firsthand. We hopped on last week, and I'm in my truck, and the Wi-Fi is bad, and we're like, let's just reschedule this, man. So I think that's a big thing too, is realizing where your blind spots are and getting help, and really doing your best as an owner to focus on how are we growing the business here, and what is working, and how can we improve.
I think so many people look at being a company owner or being a CEO as, oh great, I get to sit back and just do the vision and be on the top of things and whatever. And no, you've got to be in the field sometimes. You've got to be. I mean, I'm the CEO of StubGroup. I still work with clients. I still dig into the knotty problems and issues and like, okay, what's going on here? Because if you don't do that, you just don't really know what's going on. You lose sight of things, and you lose sight of what ultimately matters, which is the customer, the client, and what they actually need and how you solve their problems.
100%.
And I think I think it's awesome that you were out in the field when we tried to talk last week, because it shows that you're putting in the elbow grease to to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, definitely grinding, and I'd be lying if I said I thought I would be working this much on this business, but I think it's so important, and that's something I really stressed when I was at Abode. It was, your first 100 customers are so important, and they're going to lay the foundation for how that business is perceived in the future, and what you're really in the business of, and understanding who that customer is, which is so important before you spend any money on marketing channels. And just so many people are just spraying and praying, and just taking the time to understand who that customer is and putting in the work.
This is a really tactical question for you. I was curious.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of analysis recently. When it comes to how your clients want to communicate, whether that be text, phone call, email, what do you find people gravitating to right now? Granted,
I'm working with primarily senior citizens. It is the old-fashioned phone call.
Yeah.
Looking people in the eyes and shaking hands. And I like to do business like that. I'm old school in a sense. I would rather meet someone in person than on Zoom. So I'm fine with it. A lot of them, I'm calling their landline, or they're calling from their landline, which is foreign to a lot of us, kind of millennials or elder millennials or Gen Z that are in the marketing space. But I think that just goes back to the fact of don't overcomplicate things. Like, if I required them to log into an app or whatnot, it would just completely lose them. Yeah. So we try to make it as seamless as possible, and then as it stands right now, I'm the point of contact on a lot of these jobs, with the exception of the field work that is taking place on site. That's our foreman or our associate foreman. So communication is super key. I
think that answer also shows know your audience. You're working with a lot of senior citizens, so you know they like phone calls, like in person. Here, a lot of the leads that we work with StubGroup, they love texting, because we're not working with a lot of senior citizens. We're working with busy business owners who are out and about, and they are much more likely to see a text and respond to that than go log into their email and read a big long email, that type of thing.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I will say some of them text, which is fine. We really just try to mirror whatever works for them. If that's email, if that's text, it's phone call. But for the most part, I'd say it's just traditional.
Well, Tom, I want to be respectful of your time here. I could probably ask 50 more questions, but I want to give a little teaser for those who are listening and watching here. So, like I mentioned earlier, I know you do consulting. You help other people these types of conversations, looking at it with their businesses and helping them improve. So what's the best place that people could reach out and contact you if they want to chat further?
Yeah, absolutely. They can reach out directly on my website, which is Tom-Roche, so TOM-ROCHE.com.
Awesome. And we'll get that link in the description and show notes here. Great chat, and I'm glad we got to connect, even though it wasn't for the greatest reason initially, dealing with fun Google suspension issues and whatnot, but we find that puts us in contact with lots of really, really cool entrepreneurs, business owners like you, and then gives us opportunities to do more in the future. So thanks for coming on, sharing some of your wisdom, and again, those watching, listening, if you want to chat with Tom, see if he could help out your own business, tom-roche.com. And until next time, have a fantastic day. Go forth and do well.